Draft Season Podcast. It is your boy, Young Raz. We are back with some more NBA draft prospects for the 2022 draft. I'm with my boy, Sean 5K. Talk to him.
AJ Griffin Jr, my guy. Let's just get straight into the video. Of course, pretty polarizing prospect when we talk about where he's going to fit in the lottery and his background. So, I mean, what did you make of the AJ Griffin tape yourself?
I mean, there's a lot to like. I mean, even if you watched him on that Duke team, you know, he wasn't the go-to scorer. He was played well in that complementary scoring role, which I think is going to serve him well as he is drafted into the NBA. I don't think he's going to fall to a team that is going to need him to be a number one scoring option. And if he did, that would be, you know, I think bad for his development. I think he's going to be somebody who can shoot it, catch and shoot, pull up, jump shot is going to be smooth, and he has a real smooth shooting stroke. So he's going to be somebody whose floor in the NBA is going to be pretty high. I have concerns, obviously, with defense and some of his athleticism, which is limiting a bit of his ceiling. But I think, you know, he is a top 10 player in this draft.
Yeah, let's get into a little bit of the background for a moment with Adrian. Obviously, his father, Adrian Griffin, played in the league for about 9 years. His brother played at Syracuse and Illinois. Also spent some time in the G League. His sister also played for UConn. So we're talking about he comes from an NBA family. There's a lot of these guys in this class that have, you know, that NBA bloodline, which, you know, the tape still matters most, but some of these guys are, you know, bred in the lab to be great and go to that NBA level. So that's a box if you're into that type of thing when it's scouting. I feel like the first thing that we really need to speak about when we talk about AJ Griffin, I mean, shout out to White Plains one. It's always dope when we get to break down the actual New York kid who's coming out. So, you know what I'm saying, we're rooting for him off top. That he does reach his ceiling and his upside that he does possess. Number one thing with AJ Griffin, when we talk about his profile, is injury concerns for AJ. Obviously, a checkered injury past, to say the least, at this point, which is, you know what I'm saying, can be troubling for a 19-year-old prospect. Goes back a couple years now. He sustained a foot injury his sophomore season of high school. I think he missed about 14 of the 30 games on that circuit. His junior year, he had a knee injury, so he ended up missing the majority of his season pre-COVID, obviously. And his senior season, he had an ankle injury that also made him miss his senior season before he headed to Duke. By the time he got to Duke, he had it. And this is, if we're just talking about like development process, and that's a lot of missed time and a lot of missed reps for a player like that. And before the Duke season, he also had a knee injury, some more knee discomfort. He came off the bench for the first 15 games. So that's a big part of the AJ Griffin concern with me, because you spoke about the athleticism, like just talking about his athleticism before a point, because you said that limits some of his ceiling at the next level. From watching the tape, what did you see as the areas that the athleticism kind of hindered him?
I think it's on the defensive end. I think he's going to be somebody who plays the three at the next level, and at 6'6", that kind of makes him an undersized three. I don't think he's quick enough to guard twos right now. I think he is someone that kind of gets lost sometimes on defense, stuck on screens. I you know, that could be a strength thing, but I think it's just the foot speed to stay in front of those smaller guards and those more athletic guards is where I think he's going to struggle the most. I believe, you know, obviously with some of these injuries and some of the time that he's missed, he hasn't maybe gotten to the point where, you know, obviously he's 19, he's not at his athletic peak. So maybe these are some things with some technique work and some NBA strengthening he could improve upon. But as of right now, he's going to be a bit undersized at the three. And if he gets caught with switches on, you know, smaller guards, his foot speed is going to be within question. So I think it's, you know, honing in and focusing on defense, because he's going to be somebody who can't, he's not going to be somebody who's going to recover the way some of these wings will be able to. So he's going to have to be locked in on the defensive end because he can't afford any lapse in judgment.
He projects as a plug and play pick that you could probably find in the lottery as a versatile off-ball floor spacer. I mean, he graded out as one of the most impressive wing shooting prospects to enter the class. I mean, to enter the NBA in years. Like, there's not a lot of great comparisons for AJ Griffin, because if we talk about the frame and we talk about his shooting ability, there's not too many guys that really check off both of those boxes. Like, if you look at his frame, you spoke about the frame a little bit, but we talk about he's listed at 6'6", 222, around 225. Yeah, I don't think he's gonna have the foot speed to really guard twos, but I think he has the size to guard threes. And I mean, we'll get into defense a little bit more in a second, but down the line and what he does best, I think he actually has potential to be one of these like big wing stoppers, to where you have your wing guys who are with the quicker feet that can really chase guys around screens, and you can throw them at the point of attack. I don't think AJ projects as that at the next level. When he's able to have his base underneath him and use his strength, I think he's really good. If you put him in the mid post area and you guard him, I'm thinking like somebody like a Grant Williams right now. I think he has a similar type of really good low gravity to where it's really hard to move a guy like him. And AJ's one of those guys that I see, like, when he gets to the league, I think that's probably a better use of his defensive tools on that side. But yeah, getting back to the shooting for a second, because yeah, AJ legit had one of the best shooting seasons that we've seen from a prospect. Obviously, you want to see a little bit more volume from AJ, but it wasn't necessarily like he wasn't shooting like 2 threes a game. He was getting up a lot of threes out there. He scored 191 points on 164 spot up opportunities. That was good for 43% on all spot up threes, and the 91st percentile out of all college shooters. 95th percentile on shots off the dribble in the half court. 96th percentile on three pointers in the half court. That's 137 possessions. 89th percentile on guarded catch and shoots. 93 percentile on unguarded catch and shoots. AJ is a very impressive shooting prospect. You know, what do you make of his mechanics? I would say, because I think a lot of people talk about like the shot. I would definitely say it's an unorthodox shot, particularly in his base. And I think the jump shot actually has some, Jaren Jackson Jr. in terms of like the catapult type of form that he has. But the mechanics he has have proven to be repeatable, effective, and quick enough to where he can get it off when it's tightly contested. So I think when it comes to unorthodox shot mechanics, as long as you can repeat your shot mechanics, it's effective, and you can get it off in tight space, I think those check off the most boxes for me, just as far as grading out his shot. But did you have any thoughts on the shot mechanics, or just like, is this a funky looking shot?
Yeah, I mean, I think we get sometimes caught up with the aesthetic of the jump shot. If you look at him, he's balanced. His jump shot is balanced, like you said. It's that motion is the same motion every single time. So I'm hesitant to change some of these guys' jump shots that have worked. Now we'll be able to see, we'll have to see it on the NBA level, where obviously the talent is taller, stronger, quicker, more explosive, where he might not be able to get as much space as he did in college. But I think he's the type of player who's going to be able to adjust. Obviously in high school, the players weren't as good as they were in college, and he went to college and was able to have that same motion and that same smooth release. Now, aesthetically, it's not, you might get somebody screaming, hell no, if this was at the park, somebody shooting like that, you might get the hell no, but it goes in. And he shot 45%, I believe, from the 3-point line in college. So, the line's going to be a little bit further back in the league, but I don't think I would tinker with that shot. I think you let someone who shoots it that efficiently and that well continue to shoot it.
The best point you made right there is just like the shot is really efficient, and it's a one motion shot. There's not a lot of moving parts. The pre-shot preparation is among the best in his class. His upper and lower body work together in a harmonious fashion. So the self-creation bag, I think he has a way to go before he's actually creating his own shot. But he can set up his own shot where he likes his hang dribble. He can use, he has a basic package of crossovers that he can get to and create his own shot. He also has really, really good touch in the lane. But what did you make of him as a finisher? Some of the athletic concerns rear their head, some on defensively, and some of it when it comes to when he gets downhill.
I think he has room for growth there. I think as he becomes stronger and gets into an NBA weight program, I think that's gonna be his bread and butter, being able to take contact. I think he needs to work on finishing with his offhand. I think once that rounds out, he'll be a pretty complete down there. I don't ever see him as the type of person who's gonna blow by the defender, but if he can get the defender on his hip, he'll be able to finish through contact with that added strength he'll get at the NBA level. So I'm not down on him as a finisher. He has a lot of room for growth there, but it's not going to be explosive highlight plays. He's going to be somebody who's going to have to grind to get downhill baskets, but he's going to be strong enough to do so.
The spacing in the NBA level obviously it helps everybody out once they get there. He's going to be such a so good of a shooter to where he has potential to project as a possibly like 38 to 40% shooter at the next level. So when you're that good of a shooter, guys have to respect you on the perimeter. They're gonna have to close out hard. And I think that's gonna open up a lot, especially if there's other guys who, like you said, he's not gonna project as the number one option, and he might be playing with 2, 3 sometimes. Guys who are better creators on offense, and this is gonna help him get easier looks at the offensive level, at the rim, we should say. And I think, like I said, I think he also has potential to be a pretty good mid-range shooter because he does have superlative touch. So, I mean, just to finish on the defensive side with AJ, I would say, because yeah, he's a pretty tough projection. Just talking about because of the injuries and everything that happened with him. We talk about the frame that he has, and defensive side of the ball is probably the only thing standing in the way of AJ Griffin being a bona fide top 10 pick or top 5 pick. Possibly when we get into the like post Ivory range of this draft, it almost felt like just watching him. His on the defensive side of the court, it was extremely frustrating watching AJ Griffin for a lot of reasons. I don't know what not playing high level organized basketball for 2 years does to somebody's just fundamentals and things like that. But watching him, it almost felt a lot like some of his fundamentals. It kind of felt like he was going through a phase of like basketball atrophy, to where like it was a lot of easy stuff that he wasn't getting on. I'm talking about getting back cut a lot, being a little over aggressive. I feel like that's something that's easily fixable, but the actual poor positioning, a lot of it, even like on closeouts, and these are things that, if I was a front office, you have to be pretty stern, and you have to have the idea that you could bring them in and help him get better at the fundamental stuff. Because I think when it comes down to, if you're also able to unlock another level of, athletic potential and athletic upside to AJ, to where if you look at what he did, the first time I saw him was on the FIBA under 16 Team USA, and watching his development in those 2 years and how he looked as a 16-year-old compared to how he looked as an 18-year-old, his body already filled out, and he was kind of a dunker, and he played a lot more above the rim and a lot more athletic at that level of his career. So if he can even get or get a lot more of that athleticism coming from the perspective of a front office, yeah, that's the type of guy that you definitely swing on in the top 10. But overall, what else did you make of or like stood out to you about him on defense?
I mean, defense, I think for me, it's attention to details for him. And I believe all of that is correctable. And to your point, like you said, that's somebody you take a swing on. If you have all of that offensive upside and that polished game already, and the defense stuff isn't going to be about effort. It's literally just going to be about locking in and honing in and becoming a defensive savant and understanding the schemes and tendencies of players. He's going to be somebody that's going to have to watch film and understand the type of players he's going up against. And I think all of his defensive laps are correctable, like getting over screens, being in better position. I did say earlier about foot speed. I think he can improve some of his athleticism with the NBA strength programming. So it's just one of those things where it's like, if he's locked in on defense and he's giving effort, he's not going to be a minus. So from there, with that offensive potential, I mean, like you said, he's somebody that the front office needs to take a chance on. And if he happens to fall to you in that top 10, you should be happy.
One thing that I've noticed about AJ, and I don't know if this is something that can be improved upon, is it just a little rust that he was knocking off throughout this season. But one thing about AJ as an athlete is he's at his best when he's able to really use his long strides, and this goes both offensively and defensively. So when he's able to really use his long strides, even if he doesn't blow by guys, he doesn't have the best first step, but he's able to use his long strides and touch to really finish in a creative way. Defensively, when he has to, make a hard jump stop, or we're talking about recovering or trying to, if you're trying to like guard two-on-one situations in the corner, to where you have to fake one side and really actually recover to the actual shooter. When he's forced and when he has to recover from a standstill, it can take him a minute to really get back up to his top speed. And I don't know if that's like a burst thing when it comes to AJ athletically, something that he's lacking. But I think that's a huge question mark for AJ Griffin and his upside and what happens to him at the next level, because he continues to be one of the most interesting prospects in his class. So I guess we can't finish on fit. Where would you like to see him most inside of the lottery on draft night?
Oh man, you always do this to me. I have him between like 7 and like 12, where I think he's going to fall. If the Knicks didn't need a point guard, I would say the Knicks. I still think he's somebody that should be on their board, just because you can never have enough shooting. And he's a bona fide wing player. And I mean, I'm at the point with some of these teams in like the 8 to 15 range, where you just kind of take as much talent in as you can and then figure it out from there. I don't think anybody on these teams are, irreplaceable, but I would love to see him also maybe look at the Wizards. I think that might be a good fit for him there. And if I'm throwing out one more, I wouldn't mind seeing him on the Cavs, but I mean, that's 14 and that's a bit of a reach.
I think that might be the best fit that I'm thinking about. That'd be an incredible fit for him.
Yeah.
Let us know in the comments what you guys think about AJ Griffin. Where do you guys think his best fit at the NBA level is? Make sure you guys are subscribed to that Draft Season podcast. We hitting you guys over the head top with that content coming to you guys daily. Make sure you guys are tapped in.